Welcome to Staff Works Explained. Are you here for the first time? Please consider subscribing to this channel. You can also watch other videos that we have made on different topics. Leave your comment, like, and share. Also, subscribe to this channel for more of such content. In today's video, we'll be talking about Lobito corridor. We'll be trying to explore why is this Lobito corridor generating so much interest or attracting so much interest from various parties. We'll be looking at various agreements that have been signed concerning this corridor. We'll be looking at the benefits that are likely to accrue out of these agreements and out of these initiatives, and who are these parties who are interested in this, and what electric vehicle or transport has to do with this interest that has been there in the recent past. Perhaps you're asking yourself, what is Lobito corridor? This is a development or a transportation corridor which is found in southern Africa. It connects the port of Lobito, which is in Angola, to landlocked countries such as Zambia. It goes all the way to DRC and some parts of Zimbabwe. So for many years, starting in the early 1900s, the Lobito corridor was a crucial pathway for moving goods between Central and Southern Africa. The corridor story starts in 1902 with the Portuguese colonial rule. They were driven by the desire to exploit mineral wealth in the interior. And there is a British-funded company, Benguela Railway, was the backbone of this corridor. And this railway was constructed for over 26 years. It aims to connect the Angolan port city of Lobito to the inland areas in Angola, as well as in neighboring countries, Zambia and DRC. This corridor provided a faster route for exporting and importing goods to and from Europe. The Benguela Railway was instrumental in transporting valuable resources like copper, cobalt, manganese from these countries. And as we know, these countries are rich in these minerals. This efficient transportation system also stimulated trade within the region. However, this economic activity came to a halt when war broke out in the mid-1970s and persisted until a peace treaty was signed in 2002. This was the Angolan Civil War that broke out in 1975 and lasted all the way to 2002 when a peace treaty was signed between the warring parties. The long-lasting civil war in Angola severely hindered political and economic progress in southern and central Africa. It caused extensive damage to Angola's economy and wider region, leaving much of once well-developed infrastructure, which included roads, railways, in ruins. Lobito corridor, including the Benguela Railway, heavily suffered out of this war. Efforts to rehabilitate the Benguela Railway have been ongoing, with various regional and international initiatives proposed over the years. In 1987, South African Development Corporation (SADC) proposed a 10-year rehabilitation plan, but this just remained a pipe dream. It was not implemented due to ongoing conflict. After the Angolan Civil War came to an end in 2002, the railway was reconstructed between 2006 and 2014 by the China Railway Construction Corporation at a cost of $1.83 billion. The rehabilitation of this railway, which is part of the Lobito corridor and is the main component, is seen as a priority project for the Southern Africa Development Corporation (SADC), including the new Partnership African Development (NEPAD). Also, it's a short-term action plan for Angola and the region. This has garnered interest from various parties, including international financial institutions such as World Bank, African Development Bank of South Africa, and this institution are funding this initiatives. It is understood that a functioning transport infrastructure is important for economic development, especially in maintaining the current peaceful environment in this country. Three countries, DRC, Angola, and Zambia, are actively seeking to revive the trade route, which dates back to colonial times. There's been support from Europe and US, which have been supporting the ambitious plan to show up green energy resources, and this is where EV transport comes in. The Lobito corridor has been generating interest, which is evidenced by a recent string of MOUs and agreements which focus on its development. The recent string of MOUs and agreements focus on development of Lobito corridor underscores the growing recognition of its strategic importance as well as potential it has for economic development. These agreements show that a concerted efforts among stakeholders can help or can capitalize on the corridor's geographical position and as well as improve its infrastructure and connectivity. The sharp focus on this corridor as a route for exporting strategic minerals and electric vehicles battery value chains products to EU and Europe or US is a key takeaway from these recent MOUs. There is a memorandum of understanding signed by the EU, the United States, the DRC, Zambia, Angola, African Development Bank, African Finance Corporation, which is geared towards extension of the Benguela line to Zambia, which is one of the main components of the Lobito corridor. There is also the Lobito Corridor Transport Facilitation Agency, which is abbreviated LCTTFA. This was signed by the governments of Angola, the DRC, as well as Zambia, and this was mainly to help accelerate domestic and cross-border trade along the corridor and foster the participation of the small and medium enterprises in the value chain. This agreement, LCTTFA, Lobito Corridor Transit Transport Facilitation Agency Agreement, aims to provide an effective and efficient route that will facilitate the transportation of goods within the territories between the three countries, which are member states. The Lobito Corridor Transport Facilitation Agency will provide alternative trade routes for importers to venture into markets. The corridor presents an opportunity for the three member states to establish as well as consolidate their cooperation in movement of goods, people, and also ensure cooperation in rail and road traffic, as well as provide more efficient and effective route for the inland transportation of goods between the three countries and the sea. There is also an MOU that was signed between EU, DRC, as well as EU and Zambia. These are two MOUs that were signed by these two countries in their individual capacity. The EU's partnership with the DRC and Zambia has been seen as a significant step towards securing sustainable supplies of critical raw materials, which are also known as CRMs, which are crucial for the green transition. And that's why we said is a relationship between EV, electric vehicle manufacturing, and the renewed interest in Lobito corridor. The EU partnership with Zambia, let's first of all look at that. The title of that agreement is titled Partnership on Sustainable Raw Materials Value Chains. The agreement focuses on securing strategic minerals and critical raw materials for the EU's green goals, while also ensuring sustainable development and local value chain addition in Zambia. Areas of collaboration for this agreement include integrating critical raw materials or CRMs and renewable hydrogen value chains, mobilizing funding for infrastructure development, enhancing government and transparency in mining sector, building skills and promoting responsible sourcing practices, as well as creation of quality local jobs. The implication of this agreement or this partnership is that it can benefit both parties. For Zambia, it will attract an investment to create jobs. It will also help in developing of infrastructure, as well as ensuring responsible mining practices. For the EU, on its part, it will secure a stable supply of critical raw materials which are needed for the green technologies like electric vehicles, as well as wind turbines. However, challenges remain, such as ensuring that there is fair distribution of benefits between the two parties, addressing the environmental concern. Although the agreement is meant for green economy, there can be some environmental concerns, and the challenge remains on how these concerns will be addressed, as well as upholding of human rights in the mining sector. Then there is the EU partnership with DRC as an individual capacity, on an individual capacity. The agreement targets sustainable sourcing of critical raw materials like cobalt, lithium, tin, as well as promoting economic development for DRC. The key features of this agreement includes formalization of artisanal and small-scale mining, which aims at integrating artisanal and small-scale miners into the legitimate supply chain, improving their working conditions, as well as tackling child labor, as well as addressing environmental concern. There's also responsible sourcing practices, where the issues of combat conflict minerals have been addressed, where there is able to enhance traceability, and due diligence measures are provided in this agreement. There's also another feature on economic development, where this partnership supports infrastructure development, education, healthcare, and other sectors based on specific needs. There's also the aspect of transparency and stakeholder management, where the agreement talks of a mechanism for transparent implementation, as well as active participation of communities, civil societies, as well as other stakeholders. This agreement has some implication. First, let's look at the benefits to both parties. For DRC, it helps in attraction of investment. It helps in creation of jobs, development of infrastructure, as well as improving working conditions of ACMs, or artisanal or small miners. It also helps in promotion of responsible mining practices, as well as economic development. For the EU's part, the benefits includes securing a stable supply of critical raw materials, which are crucial for green transition. It also benefit the EU through contribution to positive governance and conflict prevention in DRC. As you know, DRC is a country that has been boiled into conflict for the last 2 or 3 decades, and with this agreement, there is a hope that it will contribute to governance, as well as addressing conflict in this region. Some of the challenges that can be pointed out as far as this agreement is concerned, just like with the partnership with Zambia, there's a need to ensure that there is a fair distribution of benefits. So balancing profits for companies with economic gains for local communities is a crucial area that will remain a potential challenge, and this need to be addressed. There's also protection of environment, where there is a need to minimize environmental damage from mining operations, and that will be a tall order. Then there is upholding of human rights, tackling issues such as child labor, forced labor, and other human rights violations remains a challenge as far as this agreement is concerned. Traceability and accountability, ensuring that there is transparent implementation, as well as addressing concerns over corruption and other issues of transparency and accountability remains a challenge. So that's not the only agreement that has been signed, or MOU that has been signed. There's also an MOU between United States, DRC, and Zambia. This MOU supports the development of electric vehicle battery value chain in these two countries, DRC and Zambia. It includes initiatives to promote responsible sources of raw materials, development of processing facilities, as well as integration into global supply chains with potential transportation through this corridor, Lobito corridor. There's another MOU or agreement between Zambia and DRC. This agreement specifically focuses on the EV, electric vehicle battery value chain, which involves collaboration between these two countries to develop infrastructure, attract investment, promote production and export of battery components with potential transportation through this corridor. Another agreement is a concession agreement. This is between Angola government, Trafigura, Mortal and Gel, and Ventricos. These are three companies from various parts of the world, and they have signed a concession agreement which grants the concession for operating and maintaining the Benguela Railway. And potentially this agreement will facilitate mineral and other goods transportation. This concession agreement involves private sector participation in the Lobito corridor. Trafigura, Mortal and Gel, Ventricos are involved in various aspects of the concessions, such as logistics, construction, as well as financing. So apart from that, those agreements, there is support that is coming from different entities. One from China, and it is said that presence of US and EU is meant to control the presence of China in this region. China came in before them, and it will be a tall order to probably manage the influence of China in this region. So with Lobito corridor, US and EU are aiming at checking that presence of China in this region, and as this progresses, you'll be able to see who will do what. So there is EU and US support. In October 2023, the United States and the European Union passed a declaration to support efforts to revive and strengthen this corridor, especially through assisting with funding or looking for investors for the project, which according to the US government officials will cost more than $1 billion or 1 billion euros. The declaration by the US and the EU to support the Lobito corridor in 2023 October is a significant development with far-reaching implications, both positive and negative. For Washington and Brussels, linking the Copper Belt and the Atlantic Ocean is crucial. However, it's also seen as a geopolitical move in their race against Beijing or China. China currently dominates the markets for strategic supply chains for the energy transition. The EU and US require large quantities of critical raw materials like cobalt, lithium, and graphite for their green transition. The DRC, which is located along the Lobito corridor, holds vast reserves of these minerals, making it a strategic partner. As we know, China dominance in the African resource sector presents a challenge for the Western interest, and that's why probably this renewed interest. That's why they are supporting the Lobito corridor, and this is seen as a countermeasure of Chinese presence in this area, as well as holding vast reserves of minerals as far as controlling this region is concerned. In 2024, the United States made new financing commitment totaling $360 million, and this towards the construction of the Lobito corridor. This announcement, or the latest announcement, which was made in February, builds on more than $1 billion US government investment which it made in Angola in 2023, and this included an export-import Exim Bank of the US authorization of more than $900 million loan, which was to support the construction of 2 solar plants that was supposed to generate 500 megawatts of renewable energy, and an additional $363 million Exim loan guarantee to support financing and construction of 180 bridges connecting rural Angolan communities. In the early days of 2024 February, there was a forum the Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment Forum that was held in Zambia. So Zambia President Hakainde Hichilema. There was also the presence of U.S. President Joe Biden's senior advisor Amos Hochstein and African Finance Corporation President Samaila Zumbaru. This convened the Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment Forum in Lusaka. This forum was the first of the PGI's investor forum outside the United States, and it was meant to mobilize resources for accelerating private sector investment in Lobito corridor. The forum was held in February 2024, and in attendance of the private sector and various entities. When you talk of PGI, this is a collaborative effort by a group of sevens to fund infrastructure projects in developing countries. It is based on the trust principles of Blue Dot Network. It is considered to be the bloc's or G7's counter to Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, and is a key component of the Biden or Joe Biden doctrine. The partnership plan was announced for the first time in June 2022 during the 48th G7 summit, which was held in Germany. According to an article by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment is the repackaged version for the Build Back Better or B3W initiative, which President Biden announced during the 47th G summit, which was held in UK. Now, going back to the PGI forum in Lusaka, the forum brought together over 250 business and government leaders from Angola, DRC, the EU, US, Zambia, as well as international investors, as well as leaders from various industries. During this event, the American Development Bank, American Development Finance Corporation (DFC) announced that its board has approved a new $200 million debt facility to the African Finance Corporation, and this was to support the development of infrastructure projects across African continent. The proposed financing, it was said, is now going through due diligence. Development Finance Bank Corporation of America also marked its commitment to provide $10 million loan to Seba Foods Zambia. This is the first American food and agricultural investment, which is along the Lobito corridor. It also announced that AFC, African Finance Corporations, also signed an expression of interest with Kabolani Energy, and this was to provide $100 million for financing in cobalt refinery in Chingola, Zambia, with the objective of building the first electric vehicle battery grade cobalt sulfate plant on the African continent. This brings to about 350 or 360 million US dollars for new financing commitments which have been made by American institutions towards Lobito corridor in Zambia. Other deals included an MOU with Congolese Commodity Trading and Mining Company, which is to undertake the development of critical minerals in DRC. In addition to this, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, USTDA, announced a feasibility study, a grant to Rev Up Solar Ventures Zambia to develop an estimated 200 megawatt solar power plant and battery energy storage system in Solwezi, Zambia. The Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment has shown significant interest in Lobito corridor, considering its key strategic project which aligned with its goal. Then we ask ourselves, why is this renewed interest? The renewed interest in Lobito corridor can be attributed to several factors, with the projected surge in demand for critical raw materials, CRM, playing a significant role. There is an increased demand for CRMs, or critical raw materials. The International Energy Agency, IEA, estimates that a substantial increase of demand in CRM, like nickel, cobalt, graphite, and lithium, between the 2020 and 2040, will spark an interest in regions rich in these minerals. And the countries in the Lobito corridor, especially DRC and Zambia, as well as Zimbabwe, have these minerals in plenty. In fact, they have the largest reserves in the world. So as world transits towards renewable energy and electric vehicles, EVs, CRMs are essential for battery production, making regions like DRC, Zambia, which are major producers of these minerals, particularly attractive, and that could partially explain why there is this renewed interest in Lobito corridor. Then we have the DRC dominance in cobalt production. DRC position as the world's largest producer of cobalt, accounting for around 70% of global production. This positions the country at the center of attraction, so everybody will escorting DRC for this mineral. With cobalt being a critical component in EV batteries, DRC huge resources of cobalt has drawn significant interest from international stakeholders looking to secure access to these vital minerals. Then there is Zambia's association with CRMs, critical raw materials. It is near DRC, and it has its own resources of minerals, including copper, cobalt, and this further enhances its importance in the global supply chain of CRMs. The country's role as a potential transit route for these minerals from DRC, as well as its own reserves, adds to attractiveness for investment and development along the corridor. EU and US interest in green power projects. The EU and US are actively seeking to secure access to critical raw materials and support investment in clean energy supply chain. This aligns with their goals of transitioning towards renewable energy, as well as reducing dependence on fossil fuels. The Lobito corridor's potential to facilitate the transportation of their critical raw materials and support the development of green power projects makes it an attractive region for investment and collaboration. Then there is a awarding of the Lobito Corridor Operation Concession. The recent awarding of the Lobito Corridor Operation Concession to a consortium, including the European partners, has added momentum to the renewed focus on the corridor from the EU perspective. This concession likely signals increased investment and development along the corridor, further attracting attention and resources from the international stakeholders. We'll see what transpires in future. Will this renewed interest come with some benefits, especially to DRC and Angola and Zambia, or is this a renewed interest in countries to ship out raw materials that are important in transiting from to green economies? So will also this interest reduce China's influence as far as this region is concerned? As we have seen, China is already established in this region, and they have opted to use another route, the route to Dar es Salaam. So there will be this competing interest, and the renewed interest, we are going to see whether it yields fruits or whether it's another attempt to take over resources and ship them to overseas countries. So thank you for reaching this far. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Also watch other videos that you have done in this channel and leave your comment. Thank you.